All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to tackle a real beast of a platform, Amazon SageMaker. Now, it's an absolute powerhouse for machine learning. But let's be honest, its huge feature set can feel like you've been dropped into a new world, without a map or a compass. Well, in the next few minutes, we're going to give you that compass. You know, we're surrounded by sophisticated AI all the time, from the shows Netflix thinks you love to the answers your smart speaker spits out. But have you ever really stopped and wondered what it takes to get from a blank slate to a model that can make those decisions in a blink? It's definitely not magic. It's a complex, challenging, but really fascinating process. So let's just break it all down. At its heart, the machine learning journey really has three main stages. You see them right here. You got to prepare your data, then you train the model, and finally, you deploy it and keep an eye on it. This three-step process, that's going to be our roadmap for understanding how SageMaker makes sense of it all.
So why do I keep talking about a maze? Well, because building AI is anything but a straight line. Seriously, at every single step, you're faced with a ton of choices. Which tool should I use? Which framework? What kind of infrastructure do I need? One wrong turn, and you can hit a dead end, wasting a whole lot of time and money.
And believe me, the hurdles are real. You start out with this mountain of raw, totally messy data. Then you've got to figure out how to set up and manage all this complex, expensive infrastructure just to get the model trained. And even after all that, getting it deployed so it can actually make live predictions, that's a huge challenge all on its own. This is the exact maze SageMaker was designed to guide you through. Let's start our journey at stage 1, preparing the data. This is, without a doubt, the foundation of everything. You can't build a skyscraper on quicksand, right? It's the same idea. If your data is garbage, your model will be too, and I don't care how fancy your algorithm is, it all starts right here.
And this is where most projects really kick off. You've got this massive data set, but it is just a mess. It's full of errors, it's got missing values, and the biggest problem of all, it's unlabeled. It doesn't have the answers your model needs to actually learn from. So where on earth do you even start?
Okay, your first stop is a tool called SageMaker Data Wrangler. And what's so cool about this is that it gives you a visual, point-and-click way to do all the heavy lifting of data prep. You can pull in your data, and then, with over 300 built-in transformations, you can clean it up, fix things, and even cook up new predictive features, all without writing a single line of code. This just massively speeds up one of the most tedious parts of machine learning. So now your data is clean, but it still needs those answers. This is where SageMaker Ground Truth steps in. It helps you manage the enormous task of actually labeling your data. Whether you need people to draw boxes around cars and pictures, or read customer reviews and decide if they're positive or negative, Ground Truth gives you the tools and the workforce to get it done right. So, a simple way to think about it is this. Data Wrangler is like a sculptor, taking a raw, messy block of clay and shaping it into a clean, perfect form. Then, Ground Truth is like the painter who comes in and adds all the details and colors. That's the human intelligence part that actually brings it to life. You need both to get a dataset that's ready to go. Okay, so our data is pristine, it's perfectly labeled, and we're ready for the next big leg of our journey, training the model. This is where the real learning happens. And what's great is that SageMaker doesn't see this as some single narrow path. It's more like a mountain with a bunch of different trails to the top, each one designed for a different kind of climber.
And this, right here, is the core idea behind SageMaker. It doesn't force you into one way of doing things. It just meets you where you are. So whether you want a completely automated, no-code button to press, or you're an expert who needs to fine-tune every little variable, there's a path that's right for you.
Let's start with the easiest trail up the mountain, SageMaker Autopilot. With this, you literally just point it at your labeled data, tell it what you're trying to predict, like say which customers are likely to cancel their subscription, and Autopilot just takes over. It automatically experiments with different algorithms and settings to find the best possible model. And the best part? It's not a black box. It shows you everything it did. And don't think Autopilot is just for the easy stuff. It's a beast. It's powerful enough to handle everything from complex sales forecasting to fine-tuning huge language models. But for me, the most important part is that it doesn't just give you a model. It gives you a detailed report explaining why it works, like which pieces of data were the most important. That kind of transparency is absolutely crucial for building trust in your AI. But hey, what if you don't need to build something from scratch? Well, that's where SageMaker Jumpstart comes in. Why reinvent the wheel when you can start with a cutting-edge model that experts have already built? Jumpstart is basically a hub with hundreds of pre-trained models for all sorts of things that you can deploy right away or tweak with your own data. It is a massive, massive time saver.
And finally, for the data scientists who want to get their hands dirty and have total control, there's the expert path, custom training jobs. This is where you bring your own code, your own special algorithms, your favorite frameworks. You get complete freedom to build your model however you want, and SageMaker just handles all the boring, heavy lifting of managing the servers in the background.
This really shows you the fundamental choice you get to make. On one side, you've got Autopilot, which is all about maximizing speed and how easy it is to use. On the complete other end, you have custom training, which gives you maximum control and customization. And Jumpstart? That's your powerful middle ground. The right path just depends entirely on what your project needs.
So, we've prepared our data, we've trained an incredible model, we've made it to the summit, but the job isn't done yet. Now comes the final and most critical stage, actually putting that model to work. Because let's face it, a model that isn't making predictions is just a very expensive file taking up space.
SageMaker makes this whole process way simpler than it sounds. In just a few clicks, you can deploy your model to what's called an endpoint, which is secure and can scale up as needed. Then your apps can just send new data to it and get predictions back in milliseconds. And as your app gets more popular, SageMaker just automatically handles all the scaling and monitoring for you.
But deployment isn't a set it and forget it kind of deal. The real world changes constantly. The patterns in your data today might not be the same a year from now. This is a real thing called model drift, and it can make your once amazing model totally useless. SageMaker helps you fight this by constantly keeping an eye on your model's performance and letting you know if its predictions start to go sideways.
Okay, let's step back and pull this all together. We've walked through the entire machine learning journey, from a messy pile of data all the way to a live, running, intelligent application. And at every single turn in the maze, we saw how SageMaker was there to act as our compass.
And if you remember one thing from this, let it be this. SageMaker isn't one single, giant, clunky product. It's a comprehensive toolkit. It's a whole suite of specialized integrated services. The entire point is to give you the right tool for the right job at every stage of the process. This table really lays out our whole journey nice and clean. We started by using Data Wrangler and Ground Truth to turn our raw data into something valuable. Then we chose our training path, whether it was the automation of Autopilot or the control of a custom job. And finally, we use SageMaker's hosting to deploy and monitor our model out in the wild. It's a complete end-to-end platform. So when you boil it all down, SageMaker's mission is pretty simple: to turn that complex, often scary maze of machine learning development into a clear, manageable path, making sure you have the perfect tool you need for every single turn, from start to finish. So we'll leave you with this final thought. You've now got the map, and you've got the compass for the machine learning maze. The path forward is clear. The question is no longer, how do I do it? But what should I do? What big business problem, what creative idea, what scientific breakthrough are you going to solve first?